Hello everybody, you're listening to the Art Show on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host Dane Cobain. This is the weekly radio show where we chat about the local arts news. We have a different guest on each week. We head over to the Rhylight Zone for a short story and or some poetry. We catch up with Twangling Jack Ford over in the Ilk Shed for a weekly album review. And we play local unsigned and or independent music. As always, you can find us on Facebook. If you search for the Art Show on Wickham Sound, you should be able to find us. And we are repeat on Wickham Sound on Monday nights. We're on the Wickham Sound Listen Again, iTunes, Spotify and wherever else you get your podcasts. Please do leave us a short review on your podcast platform of choice. It all helps. You can also reach out to me here at the studio on dane.cobain@wickhamsound.org.uk. That's dane.cobain@wickhamsound.org.uk. And I'm particularly keen to hear from poets, performers, musicians, people with MP3s to share local arts news, etc. Don't hesitate to get in touch. So this week we have Angela Hart of romance writing and cozy mystery fame. She's an old author friend of mine, author tuber, booktuber. She used to run Words on the Page-a-thon. She's written a dissertation on romance novels. Fascinating person. But before we do that, we're going to head over to the Rhylight Zone for the latest installment of Insomniac, which is a novella by myself, Dane Cobain.
Week 23, day 5. Christmas came and went, and Kate found herself ringing in the new year by going to meet Dr. Hansworth for her first appointment. She was nervous and exhausted, but Dr. Hansworth felt approachable, and his cosy office reminded her of old country houses in her grandmother's parlour with a lit fire in the hearth. Hansworth's office didn't quite have a fire in there, but it did have shelves and shelves of books and unusual artefacts. It was beautiful, but it was also comfortable and functional. It was a long and uncomfortable session, like all first sessions, but they covered good ground, and by the end of it, Kate had told him all about Zeb and how the mysterious creature had appeared to her. "When was the last time you saw him?" Hansworth asked. Kate replied. "Let me see. I guess it was a couple of weeks ago. I had a job interview." "And you saw Zeb?" he asked. Kate nodded. "What was that like?" "It was bad," Kate said. "Real bad. I don't want to talk about it." "I understand," Dr. Hansworth replied. "Although if our sessions are to be successful, then I need you to be as open with me as possible." "I know," Kate said, "but not about this, not now. I'm not ready. I'm still wrapping my head around it." "Fair enough." The doctor jotted a few notes in his moleskin and peered across at her over the tops of his glasses. "And what about your grandmother? Have you seen her recently?" "Every night," Kate admitted. "She's trying to warn me." "She's trying to warn you? About what?" "Zeb," Kate said. "She's afraid of him. I'm afraid of him too." "Why?" "I don't know," Kate admitted, "and I'm not sure if I want to find out." Week 24, day 5. Dr. Hansworth had referred Kate to a sleep specialist and booked her another appointment, although she wasn't convinced that either of them would help. Besides, there was a 4-month waiting list, and Kate was convinced that if anything was going to happen, it was going to happen long before then. She couldn't shake the sense that someone, or something, was watching her. And she had the growing feeling that it was Zeb and not her grandmother who was watching, not that Nana Knight herself had provided much comfort. In her next meeting with Dr. Hansworth, she shared something that had been bugging her. "I used to think I was going crazy," she confessed. "I thought I was losing my mind, but then I started to come round to the idea. It's hard not to obey the evidence of your senses." "I understand," Dr. Hansworth said. "Although our senses can lie to us, sometimes it might be better not to trust them." "Do you think I'm crazy?" Kate asked. The doctor stared at her and thought about his response for a moment. His eyes looked kind and welcoming, but Kate was nervous all the same. She barely knew the man. "It's not a word that I use for anyone," the doctor said. "But no, I think you're perfectly sane. You just have a different reality." "That's one way to put it," Kate said. She stiffened and sat bolt upright. Her pupils contracted and her mouth flew open. Little strings of saliva rolled over her teeth and down to her lips. Something was wrong. Zeb was coming. She could feel it. She shot to her feet and ran for the door. "I'm sorry," she shouted. "Something's come up." Week 25, day 2. Zeb had stayed mercifully away from her, but now the nightmares were so bad that even if she did fall asleep, she woke herself back up again. But they were non-specific nightmares, the kind that she half remembered by the grey light of day and forgot about by the time that she finished brushing her teeth. In most of them, she was running from something, but when she turned around to catch a glimpse of it, there was just an angry red fog spreading out over the land and slowly catching up with her. Perhaps it was a premonition about the letter. It arrived inconspicuously on her doormat in a plain white envelope. She didn't notice at first, but when she finally picked it up and slipped the flap open, the contents almost blew her away. It was a final demand from her landlord. It told her she needed to pay up quick or get evicted, but paying her rent wasn't exactly that easy. She had no money, no job, and too much pride to ask for help. So she did the next best thing. She burned the letter and tried to forget all about it. But Zeb had plans of his own, and he made them known. Kate saw him there in her bedroom, leaning against the wall and watching with his big dark eyes. That was all she could see, his eyes. There was more to him, of course, but she couldn't tear her gaze away from his pupils. They were beautiful and terrible at the same time, and they drew her in like the vortex at the centre of a whirlpool. All of the rest of him was just added material, and her brain refused to process it. Zeb's sudden appearance had been a shock, of course, but it hadn't been a surprise. Kate had been expecting him, and she knew that he was up to no good before he opened his phantasmagorical mouth. "Kate," he said, "you can't go on like this much longer. You'll have to give in eventually." "Over my dead body." "No," Zeb said. "Not yours. Someone else's." "What do you mean?" Kate asked. But Zeb just laughed and said, "You'll see." Week 26, day 3. Kate stopped leaving the house. She thought that if she stayed in the place, then her landlord would struggle to kick her out. The logic was flawed, of course, but it kept her going. By now, sleep was almost non-existent, but she no longer spent hours in bed every night trying to get there. Instead, she stayed up for days on end, patrolling her house and cleaning every inch of it as though bleach could make up for the lack of rent. And everywhere she went, she kept her eyes, her ears, and her intuition open in case Zeb made another appearance. If he did, she promised herself she'd be ready. Her house was small enough to begin with, but it felt like it was getting smaller by the day. She lived on the bottom floor of a 3-tier semi-detached house that had been converted to modern apartments, and her entire world now consisted of just 3 rooms that she refused to leave unless she had to. Zeb and Nana Knight had always appeared in the bedroom, which was tucked off to the side and which backed onto a wall. There were no windows and there was no exit except back through the rest of the house, and it had started to make Kate feel trapped. As time went on, she spent more and more time in the other 2 rooms, the hybrid lounge kitchen and the bathroom. The next time she saw Zeb, she wasn't half asleep in her bedroom. She was wide awake in the living room at 9:45 AM, drinking a cup of green tea and watching daytime television. The weather outside was bleak, but the sun's grey light still made its way through the net curtains and into her living room. It happened in the blink of an eye. One moment she was alone, and the next, well, Zeb was in the room with her, although all she could see were his eyes. They beckoned her in and took over her senses, like a one-on-one with a hypnotist who was hell-bent on destruction. They demanded her attention and her obedience, but her mind rebelled. She tore her eyes away with a superhuman effort and dashed away from him. She realised too late that she'd backed herself into a corner. Kate stood there in the tiny kitchen with Zeb blocking her route to the door. Even if she could brush past him somehow, the door was locked, bolted and on the chain. She didn't trust strangers. She never had. But now it looked like her paranoia was about to backfire on her. Zeb's eyes beckoned to her again. She heard his voice inside her head whispering, "Do it, do it." She didn't know what he meant, but she'd be damned if she was going to let her life be ruled by fear any longer. She armed herself, scooping up a kitchen knife from the sideboard and backing off towards the bathroom. The handle was still wet and she struggled to keep a grip on it, but if she had to, she'd fight the thing with her bare hands. Zeb floated slowly towards her. She could still only see the eyes, and she didn't dare to even look at those in case they took over her mind somehow. Maybe he was walking, and maybe he was being carried along by a dozen slimy tentacles. Maybe it didn't matter. She wasn't going to let Zeb come to her. She was going to go to Zeb, and to hell with the consequences. Kate charged at those evil eyes, her arms swinging big zigzags as she swiped the knife through the air. She scored a couple of glancing blows and Zeb howled. He cowered back for a moment, and Kate saw a glimmer of uncertainty in those expressive eyes of his. Then he charged at her, and Kate reacted on instinct. She thrust the knife forwards and felt it stick in something. Then she blacked out and hit her head on the floor as she landed. That was the latest instalment of Insomniac for this week's entry into the Twilight Zone. You're listening to the Archer on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound, and this is Grace Note with their version of Lady Antebellum's Need You Now.
Picture perfect memories gathered all around the floor, searching for the phone cause I can't find it anymore. And I wonder if I ever cross your mind. For me it happens all the time. It's a quarter after 1, I'm all alone and I need you now. Said I wouldn't come but I lost all control.
shot of whiskey, can't stop looking at the door. Wishing you'd come sweeping in the way you didn't before. And I wonder if I ever cross your mind. For me it happens all the time. It's a quarter after one, I'm a little drunk and I need you now. Said I wouldn't come but I lost all control and I need you now. And I don't know how I can do without, I just need you now. Yes, I'd rather hurt than feel nothing at all.
It's a quarter after one, I'm all alone and I need you now.
Said I wouldn't call, but I'm a little drunk and I need you now. And I don't know how I can do without, I just need you now. Oh, I just need you now. Oh, baby, I need you now.
Knocked down outside and in distress. You're not what I am used to. You come from more, I come from there. Somehow we meet in the middle. You try to stand, stumble and fall. Bridges divide between us. Now we both understand the call. We're all just stuck in the middle. Felt so obsolete, so indiscreet. We will never meet, two sides of the same street. Downtrodden and beat, always on your feet. We will never meet, two sides of the same street. You had to stop me in my tracks, break down this wall between us. Look far away to bring it back, so we're not stuck in the middle. You try to stand, stumble and fall. Bridges divide between us. Now we both understand the call. We're all just stuck in the middle. Felt so obsolete, so indiscreet. We will never meet, two sides of the same street. Downtrodden and beat, always on your feet. sides of the same street. Downtrodden and beat. You always on your feet. We will never meet. Two sides of the same street.
That was Same Street by The Altered Mindset, and before that we had Need You Now, a Lady Antebellum cover by Grace Note. You're listening to The Archer on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain, and it's time for us to be joined by this week's guest, who is romance author and specialist, Angela Hart.
First question is a general question that I ask everybody, and it's, what was the last book that you read, and what did you think of it?
Oh my goodness. Last night I was reading a self-published romance novel, which is different from my cozy mystery love, clearly. But last night I was reading Ruth Ann Norton. She's fabulous. She's one of those minor kind of hidden gem finds. She has her Pioneer series, she has her Western series. So I was kind of going back because I read her a couple of years ago. So now I've been going through because she has, I think, 100 plus books. So I think I'm 50, I think I'm 50 something of the way in. So I'm making progress, but Ruth Ann Norton was my latest read. That was last night. And I'm still reading my current cozy mystery book, Death by Bubble Tea by Jennifer J. Chow. So I can't tell you how, the end result with that one yet, but I am loving it currently.
Awesome. Well, we were chatting before we started the interview about my girlfriend, and she's a big bubble tea fan. So maybe that might be my way to get her into cozy mysteries as well. And she reads a fair share of romance too. So, but she goes for the spicier end of things. And actually, speaking of
I
which,
could recommend some with that too.
yeah. Well, I was going to say, could you define spiciness for me, and like, what are the different levels of spice when it comes to romance?
Oh, that's actually a very good question. And it's really hard to actually truly have a definition. I feel it's one of those, everyone has their own sort of experience with spicy romance because some people, I think, use 50 Shades of Grey because it's the most common. And that seems to be one of the benchmarkers because it had such an impact on the romance genre publishing industry. So a lot of people are like, okay, that's the steamy side of romance. But technically speaking, it goes from the chaste kiss. And so then we're moving up a level. So now we have on the page makeout sessions, closed behind, it's called the closed door love scene. And then you move up another level to on the page love scenes. And again, now you have the how many details, how many pages does this go on for? Is there just one scene? And then if there's more than one, you move up to that spectrum level. So eventually you can kind of get pretty spicy. If it's every other chapter and it gets really detailed, that's when you have one of those, we're going into romance genre erotica, or maybe we're even crossing that threshold into erotica now. But there is a difference. Erotica is different than romance or erotic romance. Those are so different. And yet a lot of people unfortunately use them interchangeably. And so every time I see someone go, oh, I just want to go and correct you, but I know I can't because I'm not that person. But I will mentally be correcting them. It's like when someone uses incorrect grammar, you're going, oh, wrong word. So I see that mixed up a lot of the time, but I think what's ended up happening is TikTok has taken off with the spicy romance because Goodreads has their own thing, Instagram has their own community. And so TikTok, a lot of people there use the terminology in a way that works for them, not necessarily that's industry wide. So I think that's something people need to learn to look for, or not necessarily take at face value. Like just because someone says this is an erotica doesn't mean it really meets that threshold for the industry. So that's an excellent question. And I'm really happy you asked that.
Awesome. Well, and we'll chat some more about romance in a bit. And you mentioned sort of romance and cozy mystery are really your two main genres. And I suppose the similar question for cozy mystery is, how would you define a cozy mystery? What makes something a cozy mystery versus a regular mystery versus a crime novel versus police procedural?
Oh, absolutely. Because I actually get that question quite frequently. And one of my fun go-to responses is it's like Hallmark Channel. It's Hallmark with murder. It's a quote unquote happy murder. And so technically, when you want to go for the literary definition, it's very little to no on the page swearing. There's no love scenes, no graphic violence. And technically, the murder usually takes place off the page, or again, the very little graphic violence. You kind of find the body versus witness the murder. So they try and keep things cheery, even though it's supposed to be dealing with murder, which is a very hard, heavy topic. You're having fun as you solve the mystery. So you end up having a lot of tropes and reoccurring themes with cozy mysteries. So you'll have a coffee cozy mystery where everything's set in the coffee house and they have all of the different recipes for the drinks and you're getting to enjoy that as you solve the murder. So you have these fun little side tropes and themes that you get to look for when you're solving and you're sleuthing for your whodunit.
Yeah. And can you share maybe some of the tropes both for romance and for cozy mystery for us?
Oh, of course. There's so many when it comes to romance. So cozy mystery is itself a subgenre. So you have mysteries and then you have cozy mysteries. So mysteries is the umbrella. And so with romance, you have that as the umbrella. Because again, for people who read Nicholas Sparks, I appreciate that you're reading, but he is technically literary romance. So
Yeah.
he's not romance genre. So when I say romance genre, this is a totally separate thing. And so underneath the romance genre heading, you'll have this is where you get into, alien, your paranormal, your fantasy, your historical, your contemporary. There's so many with under that. So those are sort of your main overarching, but then you go even further. So is this a first love? Is this a second chance romance? I always love the ones it happened in Vegas. Currently, hockey romances are really big right now. And there's just, oh, the surprise baby. There's so many fun ones. And then
Enemies
we'll
to
have those.
lovers.
Oh, exactly. Yes. And then you have the books that you get to always say, enemies to lovers. Oh my gosh, I love how I was just about to say it. Sally Thorne's book, as I'm trying to remember the title right off the top of my head, Sally Thorne wrote it. And so that's one of the classic ones right now. I know everyone's talking about the kiss quotient because you also have the sex worker with the heart of gold. And I know Allie Hazelwood just had her paranormal come out. So there are all sorts of different fun things that you can look for. So that's why I honestly think if you have an interest in fantasy, I can find something to recommend for you. If you like
Yeah.
aliens, you're Ruby Dixon. I mean, I can just go right back and forth. Which is what you love about it. There's something for everyone, regardless of. I mean, there's just so much to look for and enjoy. I was gonna say, regardless of the genre boundaries, there's so much under the umbrella of romance. It just feels so inviting.
Yeah. Yeah. And what about some of the tropes for mysteries and cozy mysteries?
Yes. So when it comes to cozies, I think they have their very specific set. So I, I always call it the cozy companion. So you'll have the one where it's a dog cozy mystery because if there's Sleuth or Sherlock, the Watson is the dog sidekick. And then you'll have the cat cozy mysteries, or you'll have one where they're set. So those are their own entities. So the animals are their own sort of overarching subgenre there with their own theme or trope. And then you'll have other sorts of things of, is this a return to hometown or are they new to town? And cozy mysteries, they do have some romance. Is there a love triangle? Is this a second chance love or a first love? So they have their own tropes as well. So there is some overlap, but I don't really think when it comes to romance, you're looking at the cozy companion element. It's different for that specifically for cozy mysteries.
Yeah. It's funny because you kind of touched on there some of the romance tropes crossing over into cozy mystery. I was at a conference. It's got to be about 6, 7 years ago now, and I dabble with horror, and one of the people there was saying horror and romance, they're the two genres that can kind of creep into other genres without changing it. So as soon as you start putting elements of fantasy into something else, it becomes a fantasy novel, or it becomes a paranormal romance or whatever, but it kind of changes it. Whereas this horror creeps into everything. Like crime is a great example. There's elements of horror to a lot of crime. Even in some mysteries you can have the ghost story kind of taken, and so I think it's interesting how they're two very opposite genres, but certainly with romance it creeps into so many different things. Even like you look at Star Wars or something like that, it's like, well, then you've got your romance in that as well. It's almost not a story if there isn't a romantic element in it somewhere.
I mean, that's something I kind of love about it, especially because it's so character driven, it's not plot driven. And I think that's what appeals to this wide audience. I mean, the romance publishing industry, the ongoing joke is they keep the lights on. So romance keeps the lights on in the publishing houses because people are always purchasing it. I mean, clearly it's attracting people for a reason. And I honestly think it has to do with that characterization. And you want these people to be happy. And if that's finding love, you want them to find their one, their soulmate. And so you're rooting for them. Same thing in Star Wars. As soon as they kiss, you're going, oh, this is what's happening now.
Yeah. Well, maybe, and that's a good point there as well, is that because it's so character driven, maybe that's why it's sort of so universal, because so many things will be plot driven. You know, your action movie, it's all about the plot. But actually, if you put a little bit of romance in there, then suddenly you've got your character element to it as well. Whereas before it was just, you know, the guy in the white hat shooting the guy in the black hat. You know, there wasn't any character to it. So maybe that's another reason why it's so universal.
Oh, absolutely. I think I love the examples when it comes to you're going for if you're rereading a book, you're not rereading it for the plot. You already know the ending. You're reading it because of the characters and something about it was enjoyable and spoke to you. And you just reminded me of the Cozy Mysteries. There's one, it's called the Coffee House Mystery Series by Cleo Coyle. And I think she has 20 something books in the series. The Hannah
Hmm.
Swenson series by Joanne Fluke, she's written 20 something books in the series. After a certain point, you know a character's going to die, you know the sleuth's going to investigate, and the murder's going to be solved. That is not 20 books in a series. That
Hmm.
that is a character you're rooting for and want to find out, okay, what's going to make Hannah happy? Who is she finally going to choose with her love triangle? Let's find out. Let's revisit Lake Eden and go back. You're not going back after 20 books just because you like the end result of the whodunit. There's more to it than that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Cool. So, and can you tell us a little bit about your dissertation? Because I know you told me a little bit on Instagram, but can you share that with the folks at home?
Yes, I've been working on my PhD in communications. I started my program in 2016, and yes, we're in 2024 now, so I started this a while ago. So clearly there's something about the romance genre fandom I have dedicated a lot of my time to. It spoke to me, and the fact that I'm still working on it tells you how much it means to me. So I was really invested in trying to find an overlap with romance genre and academia, and it's a very, very small sliver. The last fandom study that was done was Janice Radway in 1985. So this is a long time ago, pre-digital
Hmm.
age. So I'm trying to explore the romance genre fandom and how they utilize online platforms, what this allows them to do, how they combat and negate the stigmatization. So there's so much to kind of break apart. It's been a very long process, but hopefully the end result will make it all worth it.
Awesome, cool. And obviously, we've chatted a lot about your passions when it comes to reading, but you're also a writer as well. So, what can you tell us about your writing?
So at the moment, I have the read again. I love my romance novels. I wrote a little romance novella for the Read Me Romance podcast. It was created by Alexa Riley and Tessa Bailey. And right now, I think Tessa Bailey has stepped back a little bit, so it's just the writing duo for Alexa Riley. So I currently actually have another novella due for them in the next month and a half. So I got to get my little writing button to gear and get some more words on the
Hmm.
page because they need this is one of those you can't let the deadline go by you because at this point it's the podcast and someone needs to narrate it. So I can't wait for that whooshing sound of the deadline with the ongoing joke in the writing community. Like, nope, I have a hard and fast deadline. So I got to get my 10,000 words on the page for my novella and hopefully people will listen to it and enjoy it. So that's the next project coming out.
You're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain. I'm here in conversation with romance author and reader Angela Hart. And this is Luna Barge with Matt.
I've been staring at this pirate's map for what seems like forever. Now I know where the X belongs. I finally found that treasure. Whoa, whoa. There's no monsters here. Whoa. Now we're off the map. We're free to sail forever. Whoa. There's no monsters here. We've left them all behind, my dear. uncharted waters, with the wind against our backs. Just the two of us upon this ship, and the compass says we are on track. Whoa, there's no monsters here. Now we're off the map, we're free to sail forever. There's no monsters here, we've left them all behind, my dear. Behind, my dear. We don't know where we're going now, but we'll enjoy it anyway. We'll find out where we are somehow, then we'll be back someday. Whoa, there's no monsters here. Now we're off the map, we're free to sail forever. There's no monsters here, we've left them all behind, my dear. Whoa, there's no monsters here. Now we're off the map, we're free to sail forever. There's no monsters here, we've left them all behind, my dear. Behind, my dear. We've left them all behind. Yeah, we left them all behind. Now we left them all behind. Yeah, we left them all behind.
That was Lunar Barge with Map. You're listening to The Archer on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain, and I'm here rejoining conversation now by this week's guest, who is author Angela Hart.
Awesome. And you mentioned getting words on the page. What is / was Words on the Page-a-thon?
I
And
know,
will it be
I need to bring
happening
it back.
again at any point?
I need to bring it back around. I think that it kind of fell by the wayside during the COVID time. And plus, there's always so much going on. The Cozy Mystery Book Club, if I let it, it could be a full-time job unto itself. So Words on the Page is one of my little passion projects. And it was my idea of just take one day or at least 1 hour and make that your writing time. Get your words on the page. It's called Words on the Page-a-thon. I love the idea of just putting one day aside to get your words done, because we all have lives. We have so many things going on, and it's really difficult to wake up early. I have insomnia, and so when people say, "Oh, I wake up at 4 a.m.," I'm going, if I fall asleep by 3 a.m., I'm happy. I can't make that writing life work for me. And so many people have these examples of, "Oh, I wake up every morning and write X," or "I stay up every night and write Y." So the idea is to just take one day of the month and turn that into your writing day. So I was thinking again, I know this is a while from now, but I was thinking come NaNoWriMo time with November, the Saturdays, maybe turn that into a Words on the Page-a-thon event, see what I can do with that, whether it's Twitter writing sprints, thread sprints. I don't know what's going on with social media, so I'll have to determine the platform, but I'll figure something out.
Yeah. Well, and mentioning NaNoWriMo, and like for those of the uninitiated, we're talking National Novel Writing Month. The downside with that is that you sort of have to commit to writing every day, and as you say, not everyone is able to do that, especially maybe let's say you've got young kids, and you're the primary carer. If there is a 1-day event like that, you can sort of say to your partner or your parents or whoever, and just be like, can you take the kids out for the day so I can just sit down and I'll have this 1 day. And so I think it makes it a lot more approachable and achievable to have a 1-day thing that people can aim for, rather than every day in November, which might not be feasible for everyone.
I think that's part of what I like about the idea in general, is that even for myself, I'll have emotional blows where I'm going, "Oh, I just can't bring myself to write today." I'm a dog mom, so when my little guy passed away, I was devastated. I was grieving for the longest time. I'm still grieving. And so it's really hard to sit down and write a happy, cozy mystery when you just want to sit down and cry and look at your photos of your little fluffy baby. It's really hard. And so when people say, "Oh, no, you just got to push through it," I'm a person. I can't do that. It's just one of those. I think people have this idea of writers write every single day, otherwise they're not a writer. That's
Yeah.
not really the case. People have to make it work for them. I know people have issues with her, but Colleen Hoover was saying she writes when she's inspired, and she
Yeah.
actually didn't accept one of her projects with her publishing company at the time because they wanted to have a deadline, and she's going, I don't know if I'll be inspired before then. I can't guarantee
Yeah.
this due date. And she's done very well for herself, and if that works for her, it's got to be true for other people too.
Yeah. I mean, I think Ian Fleming, who wrote the James Bond novels, I know those are among the many books that have been sort of edited recently to make them less, you know. Well, Bond does some unpleasant stuff, but anyway, let's move
I
on
was
from that.
waiting
The
to see how
point,
you finished
yeah,
that sentence.
yeah, yeah. But the point being is that the way that he wrote was that he would take his like annual vacation, and that was his writing time, and so he'd have like I think like 2 months or 6 weeks or something. It was actually in Jamaica, I think, that he used to go to, and that he had his house out there, and he'd go there, write a Bond novel, and then that was it. He was done writing for the year, and he wouldn't do another one till the next year. Again, I think that's the interesting thing with writing is that everyone has their own, their own way of approaching it. And I like what you said as well, where people have this idea of a writer has to write something, be writing every day. I think at the end of the day, if you are a writer if you write things. It doesn't matter how you write things or whether you do it all in one sprint, whether you're a plotter or a pantser or whatever it is. If you're writing something, then the end result is speaks for itself, doesn't it?
That I love the way you just worded that. That was so eloquent. There's a quote I am totally going to paraphrase, and I cannot remember who said it, but she was saying how we live in a day and age where everyone is technically a writer because you're writing emails, you're writing text messages.
Hmm.
Even if you have a creative thought and you write a couple sentences, you are writing. And so that kind of spoke to me in a way, going, yeah, if you just make a little bit of progress on a regular basis, that should count. Who
Yeah.
who's supposed to determine what quote unquote counts or not? That's a separate issue. But if it counts for you, that's all that matters.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Okay. You mentioned the Cozy Mystery Club earlier. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that is and why people might want to, take part?
Well, if you love cozy mysteries, the Cozy Mystery Book Club has got you covered. Celebrating cozy mysteries as a sleuthing family since 2017. The last Tuesday of the month, every month at 7 p.m. EST, you can join one of our live stream discussions of our monthly title over my YouTube channel. Books are my heart, heart as in my last name, Hart, and I'm spelling it out because if this is audio, there's always someone who's going to be like, it's Heart, and it's
Mm,
not, it's Hart. So we have the YouTube discussions once a month. But then there's also the Instagram and the Twitter account. I try and find ways to incorporate wait I try and find a way to let people enjoy coziness regardless of the platform. So each month we have one selected title, and I'm so proud to say this because all of the books are submitted and voted on by book club members, and that's something I'm really proud of and happy to say because this is really a club for the community. And I'm not just saying, oh, this is what I want to read this month. Everyone submitted the titles. I cultivated them into this Google form. There is, I think, 200 something votes, and we had the final 12 as the result. So we have our
yeah.
this sounds, I'm a planner, so we have the entire 2024 TBR currently available, and I've told everybody they can start submitting their 2025 recommendations. I'll keep it, I have a notebook, I'll keep a list. So I'm always looking for all their cozy mystery recommendations. But the cozy mysteries, they're all submitted by book club members. They're discussed across the platforms with the live discussion at the end of the month. And I've taken to turning those live stream discussions into podcast episodes. So it's the Cozy Mystery Book Club podcast. And you are a YouTuber. I don't know if you've ever encountered problems, but my YouTube channel was actually canceled at one point, and I didn't want to lose the coziness. So now we have the YouTube live stream discussions archived there, but we have them available as podcast episodes as well, just in case something were to ever happen with YouTube again.
Yeah. Yeah. Good plan. Awesome. Okay.
He
So
smiles. You're like, I know, I've been
uh,
there.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, not just for me as well, because I used to work in social media marketing, so with clients as well, which is somehow more stressful. At least if it's me, it's my problem rather than like I am now responsible for fixing this problem that's somebody else's problem, which is even worse somehow. But anyway, okay. So over on your website, you've got some freebies that people can pick up. What is your website, and what are those freebies they can access?
So I actually, because I have my personal website, angelamariahart.com, and then I have thecozymysterybookclub.com, and you have to say the. So this is so funny because when I created the Cozy Mystery Book Club, it really was the Cozy Mystery Book Club. It was the first one for YouTube. And since then, more people have been going, I'm going to make a Cozy Mystery Book Club and do their own little things, which is so much fun to see that you're inspiring and creating and it's amazing. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, we got to clarify so people know exactly which
Yeah.
platform is which. I'm like, it's thecozymysterybookclub.com. Both of them have a lot of freebies and extras. I actually, as I smile, I actually have 2 sets of extras. So if you join the email newsletter family, there's even more pages, even more extras. But I love designing things. I love opening my Procreate app. I love doing the adult coloring book pages. I love making word searches. I design the bookmarks. There's something there for everybody. And I think I'm always just so honored when somebody visits the website or takes part in the book club. I want to be able to offer them something as a token of my appreciation, as a thank you. So depending, no matter what you're looking for in this bookish digital age, there's something there for you. I'm going to guarantee that.
Awesome. And you mentioned your love for designing. I was having a little look at your Etsy store. So what are some of the goodies that people can pick up from there?
Oh, you're so sweet. You did all your research. You're so sweet to do that. I'm so appreciative of you. So the Etsy store, I don't run it for profit. I'm just going to throw that out there right now. So when it comes to the Cozy Mystery Book Club, everything I do is just for the community. I'm not looking to turn this into a job. And I think that's also why people trust the transparency of it, because if I make a package for you and I mail it out, I'm not making any money on that. Basically, you're just
Yeah.
paying for the shipping. And if you order 1 sticker, you're probably going to get 5. You're going to
Yeah.
get all
Yeah,
sorts
I
of
saw
extras
that
in
in
that
the
package.
reviews. Yeah.
So I personally love stickers, and Cozy Mysteries, they lend themselves so perfectly to having stickers designed. So we have our mascot, Moriarty, TEA.
Yeah.
Obviously, Sherlock Holmes, he had his nemesis Moriarty, but we have Moriarty as our mascot. And so our logo, so he's our logo, and our mascot is Perlock, which I also love the name of. Somebody in the book club submitted it. So we have a cat who's dressed in her Sherlock best. So naturally, there needed to be a sticker that could be sent out so people could just join in the sleuthing cozy fun. I mean, personally, if I love a book or I love something, I want to wear the sweatshirt. I want to wear I want to wear a scarf or a hat or something. I collect mugs. And so I want to find ways that other people can feel invested or involved in the book club, because if you're sitting there reading your cozy mystery with your book club mug, you're going to feel so at home and so cozy. And that's what I want. That's what I want to feel when I'm a reader or a part of a book club. So I want to make sure that's available for everybody else too.
Boom. Awesome. And just the last question to end on. So, and you've kind of touched on this a little bit, and you mentioned you're a planner as well. So I'm sure you've got a lot planned. What's next for you, and where can people follow you to find out more?
Oh, there's always something going on. I always work on the email newsletter. I do that the first of the month, every month. It's very intricate. The Cozy Mystery Book Club has their live streams the last Tuesday of the month, every month. So there's always things on the calendar. If you ever want to know what's going on in the digital realm, I have my personal website, and there's actually a calendar feature so you can download the save the dates. Definitely the email newsletter is where you're going to find the most up-to-date information. So that tells you when I'm going to an event and when we might have the chance to meet in person, what's coming up on the YouTube channel, what's dropping on the podcast. So I'd recommend the email newsletter, and you can join that over on the website. I have the link tree over on my Instagram. Basically, wherever I have a platform, there's a way for you to link over to the newsletter.
Big thank you to Angela Hart for joining me. You're listening to the Art Show on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain, and this is Big Nose Thomas, a previous guest, with Bell Ringing Daddy.
I'm a bell ring daddy. I ring your bell tonight. I'm a bell ring daddy. I ring your bell tonight. And when I ring your bell, mama, you know I'll ring it just right. I go ring, 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 ring. Ring, 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 ring. I know, others say I ding. Well, some women say I know, all the others say I ding. Which one is it, darling? But when I get to dinner, darling, I don't really have to think. I can send you a bill with just one touch. I can send you a bill with just one touch. Well, you can try to sign it out, oh honey, but you won't get much. Your bill is metal, I have to strike it hard. Well, your bill is metal, I have to strike it hard. Well, you know it's easy for me, feels just like paper card. Don't call it rough, call it lovingly. Oh, don't you call it rough, call it lovingly. When I can ring and ding your bell, darling, and take it, sweet melody. I'll do it for you now, dear.
Arrived for a party, fashionably late. Arrived at 9:30. You said be here at 8. I guess I'm in trouble again. I can tell by your face. So pour me a double and turn up the bass. What's that you're saying? I can't hear you shout. I can see your mouth moving, but nothing is coming out. Just call me a taxi, dear. Let me get home. I know we're together, but I feel so alone. What's that you're saying, dear? I can't hear you shout. I can't hear you shout. I see your mouth moving, but no, dear, nothing is coming out. Will you call me a taxi? I need to get home. Yeah, I know we're together, but I feel so alone. It's ended.
You're listening to the Art Show on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain, and it's time for us to head over to the Ilk Shed now to catch up with Twangling Jack Ford for this week's album review.
Tago Mago by Can. In the early 70s, the British music press started reporting on a new kind of music coming out of Germany. The Germans called it Kosmische Musik, but the British music press nicknamed it Krautrock. And for better or worse, that term has stuck. About this time, the German band Can released this double album at a budget price. And a lot of people bought it. A friend of mine had it and we would sit and listen to it in his bedroom. We were the kind of teenagers who were looking for something different. We had preferred the spacey Pink Floyd songs to the songy ones, and we would turn the lights down and get into Interstellar Overdrive and set the controls for the Heart of the Sun. We liked Hawkwind and were starting to get into Frank Zappa. The music on this album was assembled from excerpts from long jams recorded straight into a 2-track recorder. The remarkable thing is the drumming, which maintains a steady beat for long periods. With a solid beat of bass and drums, the guitarist is free to be quite experimental. The guitar is quite clean and spiky, and is lacking in distortion or other effects. With distortion, it would have sounded more like the guitar heroes of the day, more psychedelic. In contrast to the harsh guitar sounds, the keyboards add soft textures and spacey atmospheric effects. There is a singer who seems largely to chant along with the beat, adding to the trippy feel of the thing. The surprise with this album is not the quantity of noodling and noises, but the large amount of pieces that sound like structured songs. Any decent rock singer can improvise a melody and lyric over a 1/4 progression, and many have made a good living out of it, like Bono. But Damo Suzuki of Can creates haunting melodies that stick in your head. Like many experimental double albums, it would have made a fairly conventional single album. Can were not as successful as their contemporaries Kraftwerk and Tangerine Dream, but were an inspiration for a generation. It is not music to listen to if you're in a hurry. I currently keep a CD in the car. Tego Mago, Can.
Big thank you to Twangling Jack Ford for this week's album review. Thank you to Angela Hart for being this week's guest. Thank you for everyone whose music I've shared. As always, you can reach out to me here at the studio by dropping me an email on dane.cobain@wickhamsound.org.uk. That's dane.cobain@wickhamsound.org.uk. And I'm particularly keen to hear from poets, performers, musicians, people with MP3s to share local arts news. Don't hesitate to get in touch. You can also find us on Facebook. If you search for The Art Show on Wickham Sound, you should be able to find us. And we are repeated on Wickham Sound on Monday nights. We're on the Wickham Sound Listen Again, iTunes, Spotify, and wherever else you get your podcasts. So I'm going to leave you with one last tune. This is the incredible Sepia Tone Folk Collective with I'm Not Really Here. I'll catch you next week.
Okay, let's go.
Life can seem a vicious game, and you know love is just the same. Lay down your cards, give it a try. Can you soothe the girl with me? Well, she ain't my property, just don't come and ask me why. I'm tired of all their prying eyes, and I'm bored of all the lies and the gossip that I hear. I'll sage love songs just for you, lyrics you can misconstrue and hear what you want to hear. I gave you what I had inside, then watched you take me for a ride, though I tried to be sincere. I'm tired of your lying eyes, and I'm bored of all the sighs and the tears when you're near. But if you're ever feeling down, you know I'll always be around. I can't seem to stay away, so go. You must let go of my hand. You're not my woman, I'm not your man. There's a kindness being cruel. You'll go and try and play this cool. Ignore your heart, play by the rules, then it's me that feels the fool. I'm sick and tired of my disguise, so I'll just say my goodbyes and then slowly disappear. 'Cause I'm not really here. 'Cause I'm not really here. I'm not really here.